We're live. What's up? Welcome to AI Agents Hour. We are in Europe, the EU edition today. I'm Abi. We have some special new co-hosts today. I think you all remembered Mr. Ward Peters.
Hello.
And we have another new face. Alex, say what's up to the viewers here.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Now, by popular demand, last live stream, a lot of y'all were pro Alex. They were just singing his praises, so we had to bring him on the stream. So yeah, welcome. It's your first live stream with us, right, Alex?
First of all, I think that's greatly overstated, but I really appreciate it nevertheless. And yeah, my first time on the AI Agents Hour podcast.
Nice. Well, welcome. If y'all are watching for the first time and just checking in, put something in the chat. We monitor the chat. This is a live show. We are all also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you want to hook us up, leave us a 5-star review. If you're not going to leave a 5-star review, then I don't know, do something better with your life. 5 stars only. We have a really packed show today. But before we get into that, why am I in Europe and where are we going next week?
We're going to AI Paris. I think what's exactly the name of the conference? Forgot about it.
AI.engineer Paris. You got it right.
So yeah, we'll be there 2 days, or at least 2 days at the conference, and then some days in Paris itself. I think we're doing a meetup on Monday, Thursday.
I don't know, one of those days. There'll be a Luma event soon, so if you all want to drink with us, definitely come by. Alex, you're coming to the Paris conference too, right?
Yeah, I'm stoked. I get the training on Monday.
Nice. I think for a lot of us, it'll be the first time we've all met in person, especially on the European side. So some of your favorite Mastras will be there, some new faces too. So if anyone's going to that conference, just hit us up and, we'll definitely meet up with you. We'll have books, of course, and we'll be wearing Mastra shirts. So we'll be there. And yeah, that's that.
Bring your spicy takes, how we can improve the framework.
Yeah, spicy takes only. Also, we got a chat message here, which is great. Great product. Using it in production. Helped a lot in developing a WhatsApp healthcare agent. Looking forward to future releases or releases. Thank you. That's awesome. Let's get started with the show then. So we had some big shit happen last week that is honestly like it could be company changing type things when other people start leveraging your technology in their applications. And so I think the big thing here is last week, Agent 3 was released by Replit alongside a $250 million raise for their Series C. And Agent 3 has a lot of features. We're going to go through that actually very shortly. But there's one interesting thing about Agent 3 is that there's Mastra in it. And so we wanted to demo what Agent 3 is to everybody, and we might show where the Mastra bits are. So I'll give Alex the floor here, and let's play with this thing. It's right off the press. So yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So what do you reckon? Let me share my screen, and then we can experience it together. Because I've had a little play, but I'm still discovering some parts of Agent 3. So Agent 3, really interesting, by the way, is an evolution of Agent 2 by Replit, which was only released about 3 months ago, which I think gives us a sense of the pace things are moving at. It's essentially a coding agent. I think it's found a bit of a footing among vibe coders. If you're not particularly technical, but you want to build a really quick and really nice web application, you can click on the little web button here and you can prompt Agent 3 to create a website for you. It has some really cool features that maybe we can look at. We can also look at this new shiny beta tab here called Agents and Automations, which is a fairly unique feature, I think, because whereas with a web app, you're putting something in front of your user, Agents and Automations have triggers, basically, and they almost exclusively run in the background. And what I really like about Agent 3 so far is that they've thought through use cases. So instead of giving you everything, which as we know, sometimes agents can go off the rails if you don't give them any parameters. Agent Free gives you some predefined triggers. For example, you can run a workflow in response to a Slack message or a Telegram message. You can also create time-based workflows, which run at a particular interval or a particular time of day. Abby and Ward, what do you think? Where should we start here?
Where do you want to start first, or should we get it right into it?
No, web app first.
Let's do a web app. Yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously we're coming
But I want
to
to see
Paris.
how different is it with like bold.new and v0? Just want to see the outcome of it.
So we're going to Paris next week. We barely remember the name of the conference, apparently, and we're not even sure what date our meetup is. But nevertheless, we can try and create a landing page so that people can learn a bit more about it. So let's ask it to create a landing page. You know what? I've been trying to get out of the habit of typing, and I've been trying to use Super Whisper more. So let me run this quickly and test it works. Yeah. Create a landing page for Mastra's upcoming meetup in Paris. Is going to be on the upcoming Monday, and everybody is invited. We're hosting it adjacent to the AI Engineer Paris conference, and we want you to bring your spicy takes. Tell us how we can improve. You can keep the good stuff to yourself. How about we give it some like direction? Say again, Abby.
Oh, I just said Super Whisper is tight.
Yeah, I'm also doing them a bit of a disservice because I'm actually using Flow. I've been alternating between Flow and Super Whisper. But Super Whisper would always, with my microphone setup, pick the wrong input. So I switched to Flow. What would you reckon, Ward? Can we give it some input about how to make it look? Like, is there anything creative you want to see on this page? We're trying to put this through its paces, remember?
I have no idea.
French style. We got to incorporate the French flag.
Oh, yeah.
The Eiffel Tower.
Oh, yeah.
French style, Eiffel Tower.
Baguette.
Of course. Now I have to spell that. Thanks, Ward. And maybe give it like a futuristic tech vibe as well. So maybe it can infuse the traditional. Because one thing, it's really interesting because I think where some agents get praise, in particular these type of vibe coding agents, is some seem a bit better at creating beautiful websites, whereas many seem good at producing functional websites. So let's see if this produces something beautiful. So, it's even giving us these. I'm kind of exploring this with you guys. There's a theme dropdown, which looks interesting. Maybe we'll give it Zen Garden. It's also giving us an option to improve the prompt. Let me copy this as a backup option, and then we can improve it. And if it's good, we'll go forward. If not, we'll go back. This is a really nice touch in a lot of coding agents because by refining the prompt at this step, you end up making everything more efficient just by making it more explicit or presenting it. In this case, it's added some labels that might potentially help the agent produce something that looks even better. Let's give that a whirl. I wonder how long this will take.
One thing I've heard about Agent 3 is like, I think it's designed for you not to like watch it because the execution is like, at least for one dude on Twitter, it was like 50 minutes, but then he got like a bunch of cool shit built. So we'll see how quick it is. Because I know like V0s, they're all pretty quick to get you your first thing, you know?
But they usually only do like one page in the setup, and the setup is probably create next app or something, and then they just create a page. So that's probably the difference.
Yeah, but Agent 3 won't create a Next.js app, that's for sure. What if it's create Next.js apps?
It says here it's made with React and Node.js. I really love this. There's two things that stand out to me as being really cool about this and potentially a bit unique as well. First is that it's prompting us to do a planning phase. So now we can alter the plan if we want. I don't feel particularly compelled to do that right now, but when we get into building a workflow or an agent, or building an agent with an agent basically in a little bit, this might be more opportunistic because we might want to give more instructions about how to do things. Right now, this looks good. it's really cool that you can either build the entire app or start with the design. I think that in the modern age of web development, we do take a UI-driven approach. The UI almost dictates what the backend should be. I think that's become a popular idea. And so starting with the design could be quite efficient here. I think we should just build the entire app. And if I was a bit better prepared, I might have, and this is a nice shout out to Replit as well. They have a mobile app where I think the functionality is on par. I'm not 100% sure, but if so, that's awesome. And you can also clearly scan this QR code and get notified when it's finished 20 minutes, 50 minutes later, however long it takes. So yeah, what do you reckon, Abby? Should we let this run for a few minutes and then come back to it?
Yeah, let's start the other agent and automation at the same time, or we can see.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's such a pro here because it's all running in the cloud. We can run multiple agents at the same time, and I like that it's preserving the state here. You can see that. Well, actually, I was playing with something earlier, and it's waiting for my input. It's currently working on the Paris AI Connect. It's even dubbed our event with a name. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, let's get into the agents and automation parts. I think to keep things, I don't know, I played with this a little bit earlier and did time-based because I felt kind of comfortable that it wouldn't need any kind of connecting up with Telegram or Slack. We can do that and play it safe, or we can try building a Slack message event trigger and learn it together.
Let's do time-based because I don't want to get my Slack API keys and app ID and all that shit. Because when I set up, I played with this too, and I set up the Slack one, and you have to have a Slack app to then to do it, which is fine. It's just I don't want to expose any keys. And with the agent one, it is going to ask you for like OpenAI or whatever. So
yeah, luckily I've planned a little bit ahead for that. I just stopped sharing my screen just to like make sure I wasn't gonna share a key at some point. Because what I've done actually is created a prompt already.
Nice.
So I live in London. I'm not passing through Europe. I live here, and I'm always looking for new and interesting things to do in the city. And if I ask ChatGPT what to do, it says visit Big Ben, go to Eiffel Tower. That's boring. Like I've done that. I want to know about like new events, and I don't want to miss out. I don't want it to be Friday night and learn that something amazing is happening on Saturday, but I've missed tickets because I didn't know. And so I thought maybe we could build an agent to basically send a personalized email every Monday morning featuring activities for the coming week so that I can better plan. What I really like the idea of is adapting this for different cities. So when we're in Paris next week, we could just replace London with Paris and go from there.
Sounds dope.
So let's fire this off as an agent and automation. Once again, it's following that same plan build workflow, which I think is going to be especially important here because, you know, us being technical, or at least in my case, somewhat technical, we can like gauge if this is going in the right direction and tweak it a little bit. And what I'm really, really stoked to show you, and it'll all be revealed in just a minute, is that this coding agent is building an agent, and that agent is essentially a Mastra agent. And we can show you a bit more about that in a minute.
What are the models that is running under Agent 3? Is it like a mixed model approach? Are they using just Sonnet?
I guess Sonnet. No.
Probably Sonnet.
Maybe planning
Or
is something
GPT-5?
else. Maybe planning is exports a different one. It's GPT-5, and then coding might be Sonnet.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I wondered the same thing. I don't know for sure, but I know that when they released Agent 2, it was in partnership with Anthropic's 3.7. So I think it's safe to assume they're building on those same models. Yeah.
Maybe they use like Opus for planning and then cheaper one for coding.
Or maybe they're about to like change everything to use GPT-5 Codex or
there's
so many different models now for this type of work. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and if you read Reddit or something, they're all like people like Claude, some people like the Codex one. Like haven't seen people going on one nowadays.
Yeah, it's like a mix.
Yeah. I'm happy with my Opus.
I'm not sure if I have the best sort of resource to pull up and show. But But one thing I do want to point out that's really cool is that obviously we have an app type. We said that. It's also identified an integration called Replit Mail. And I think this is super powerful for two reasons. Like one, like naturally your agent is going to want to interact with the outside world in some way. Emailing is such a common use case. Replit have anticipated it and provided an integration. So you don't have to go and set up like Resend or SendGrid or some transactional email service with a separate key. It's pretty convenient for vibe coding. And I also think we'll see a bit more of this when we come back to the Paris meetup website. But Replit also has this ability to like deploy the website. And so having the integration native like this will make deployment super easy. So yeah,
Basically,
here's our plan.
You have to leave the platform then.
No, unlike Lovable and unlike Lovable,
V0
V0 technically, but they're all kind of like hidden away, right? At least with like Lovable, they're deploying to someone else's infrastructure.
Yeah.
V0 obviously Next.js or Vercel, I mean, sorry. But yeah, Replit has already had this architecture for so long because they weren't always an agent builder company. They've come a long way actually from where they started to now. Even their databases, they provision databases for your projects. It's not like they have to use Supabase, right? They're just giving you PG. Here you go. Because back in the day, y'all, Replit used to be like a sandbox execution to teach you how to code, and then it evolved into you can build apps in it, and then now your agent can build those apps. So for you learning how to code, you needed like a REPL to execute all that stuff in a sandbox environment. And so when the age of agents came here, their architecture just shifted so naturally. Unlike others who are building new components to support this, they already had all the components. And like things like this Mastra integration, like we have all these dependencies for components. They were like, no, we're good. We can just do that. We can just hook that up. And I'm like, all right, cool. Thank you.
I think I used Replit in the past. Didn't know it was the same Replit as before.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been doing it for a while, like 10 years, let's say.
Yeah, because I used them to do like small snippets and then just run it to see what the execution was. Okay.
Remember that time in the JS ecosystem when we had like Code Sandbox, JS Bin, and then Replit? People would use different things for reproductions. They'd be like, oh, look at my Replit for the repro. Yeah, no one does that anymore. But and like Code Sandbox got acquired by Together AI, so like the industry has changed since the beginning.
Everyone wants sandboxes.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a tangent. Alex, go ahead.
No, I love that context. I think Replit have been like so well positioned and they've capitalized on this amazingly. And I also agree, like I knew Replit as like a read, evaluate, print loop thing, like from years and years ago. And it was always in the zeitgeist. I would always see it featured on podcasts and, you know, and it's kind of, but lately it's impossible to ignore their success and some of the things they've been doing, including this agent builder, which has come up with a plan that says it will produce a weekly automated email, web scraping. I don't feel great about this because it's like it seems a bit generic, like it's not very specific. And I really want to make sure that it doesn't just call the LLM. It might be so tempted to ask the LLM for suggestions, but then I'm going to go up Tower Bridge for the 10th time, and I don't really want to do that. Yeah. So let's make sure it actually tries to extract some content. Which, to be honest, is a bit of a challenge because the way I would build this if I was building a workflow in Mastra would be to use an MCP server from Exa or some other like web searching service and lean on its power to do this. I don't know if the agent builder will do that or if it will try and roll something by its own hand. Let's find out.
I hope it does. It'll be like Replit web search integration be installed.
Okay, so would you like to approve the initial plan? And interestingly, because this is, like I mentioned, these are all about backend, really. These run in the background. It doesn't even make sense to start with design. So it's a little thoughtful touch. I appreciate that.
And it's cool that it said that it has a web scraper. So that's tight.
Yeah.
Also nice if you show the same buttons, but gray it out and say it's unusable, because sometimes you just see one button and then you're like, where's the other button? Because I'm used to
the UX is consistent.
Yeah, so I like that too.
There's something kind of cool here in the corner. Can you see that?
Yep.
Oops.
They need to work on their responsive.
Yeah, it's really always good like that.
While this runs, maybe Abby, you can tell us a bit more about like where Replit ends and Mastra begins. Like, what's going on here behind the scenes? Do you know?
Yeah, so behind the scenes, it first is like doing a Mastra init to create the Mastra project. And you can actually see that it's already started creating the basic files. They're using our Postgres adapters for storage. So that's their link into Mastra. And they have their own versions of all of our main components. They have their own logger, they have the storage. Now for workflow execution, they're using ingest, which not surprising because we built it and stuff, but like it's like our first production use case of the ingest adapter. We knew that people would use it, but now they're fucking using it and we have to make it better. So that's great. But you can see that they've installed ingest client and then they are essentially registering a bunch of different workflows. And the main thing that the agent is creating is an agentic workflow with agents as steps or code execution as steps, and that's really cool. And then they use ingest to kind of actually run all these things. And under the hood too, their agent has access to Mastra context of the docs and examples and everything like that. So
Do you know if they're using our MCP or they just doing their
no, they
thing
have
themselves?
they've like, and I think we have a file here. They have compiled like
Ah,
how to write these types of agents and
Yeah.
example configuration. So yeah, like very clever way of implementing this, and similar to what we were doing as well. And I guess we're going to talk about that later in the show. But yeah, we did have some drama on release day for this, but we got it through.
I reckon we let this run for another 10 minutes and then we come back to it after the next segment. We can also take a peek at the Paris landing page to see how that got along. And there's a couple more
Yeah.
features I can show you then as well.
Yeah, let's go check the Paris one, and then we can always come back to these things.
Oh, okay. We have something.
Hey.
It's still running, but we can see a preview.
it's in French even.
might need a bit of a stare.
We made it too French, dude. Is that
So
our
is-
logo up there too, or is that just? Oh no, that's just
No.
our overlay. That
Yeah.
look cool.
One thing I've noticed about how this, so one thing I've noticed for sure is that this seems to be an agent network and it has agents dedicated to different roles. For example, there's an architect agent that comes in a bit later in the generation process to test that everything is architected well, essentially, and that the code is maintainable and things like that. I think that's cool. I've not delved into this with any great depth, but something that I think is new with Agent Free and possibly quite unique to Agent Free as well is that it's actually testing the website in a real browser. And we get a little preview of that here where it's using some kind of agent to interact with the browser simulation in order to make sure everything works end to end. And presumably the reason it's in a third like that is because it's doing some responsive testing as well. I think that is sick. That's the kind of testing you need to get input to relay to the agent for the next step to make it even better.
Yeah, and they have their own browser execution environment as just a natural progression of their architecture. They're not using anything off the shelf for that, so that's cool.
Well,
They have a lot of tech that obviously you can see here. They have a lot of tech built in.
One thing I was quite surprised, because I haven't really used these vibe coding tools that much. Like I've played with Bolt a little bit, with Lovable a little bit. I'm a bit stubborn sometimes. I want to code it myself, or I'll use coding agents for specific tasks as opposed to. And I have a few friends who are entrepreneurial, And they told me, wow, this just costs too much. And I was like, but it's like $20, $30 a month or something. But actually the cost racks up very quickly. And part of that, honestly, is because sometimes a lot of the work is redundant, like going into bugs. If the agent produces a bug, you have to pay for the agent to fix its own mistake. And in this case, I'm kind of drawn to the fact that it's all in French. And if we have to wait for the agent to finish before changing anything, I just get the feeling that's going to use more tokens than necessary. I wonder if we can course correct a little bit, because some coding agents, you have to wait for it to finish before you can give a new input. But in some, you can actually say, make the text English, and it will, so it's cute. It's allowed me to write, but it's queued it. That's interesting.
You can stop what it's doing, I guess, and then, I mean, why not? It's just a website.
Yeah, right.
But isn't it the same as a regular dev team? If you go to a dev team and say, build me a website with that prompt, you will see a website in 2 weeks and then say like, fuck, it's in French.
It's just cheaper this way, I guess.
So I think it depends on what company you are, because if you're a big company, that's how it goes. You just say the sprint of 2 weeks, you get your result, and then you say you did it wrong, basically.
True.
I mean, agencies love to have revisions, right? Because you get paid.
Yeah, every 2 weeks or something, right?
Yeah.
At least they give you good visibility into what's going on, like the cost. But what's really interesting is that you pay, the plan I'm on is $25 a month. It's $15 right now of a promotion, but $25 of credit. You're paying for $25 of credit per month. And I do think you eat it up pretty quickly, and then you have to upgrade to get anywhere. So worth keeping in mind. But yeah, I'm stoked to see the agent come to life.
Then
let's come back to that a bit later.
Then Cloud Code.
Cloud Code depends on your plan, right? But like the $200 plan.
But let's say you just do tokens, like if you pay credits.
Oh,
that's expensive.
Yeah, it gets expensive.
So isn't it then maybe on par? And I guess Replit is maybe a little bit more expensive that way, just because all the UI and all the SaaS stuff you get. So I guess that's why it's a bit more expensive. But I still think like Cloud Code, like just a subscription, that's too cheap. It will go up eventually.
It's nuts. I've seen so many screenshots of people spending $200 for like $3,000 worth of token usage. But I think Anthropic will always be cheaper just because they don't have to make a margin, basically.
You don't get the same UI, I'm guessing. Maybe one day, but I guess Replit will always be a bit better. The same thing as if you use Netlify over Cell. It's more expensive than AWS because it just sucks to use AWS raw.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
the economics of these like platforms are interesting because like Lovable got everyone at the $20 a month plan, and I remember like everyone's using it heavily. Then you run out of your base credits. Then you go to the $60 plan. You use it heavily again. And that's because at the time, everyone's like, even the bug fixes, the changing to English, like everyone's just doing that because it's the novelty. And then now you're on these new plans where you pay $100, $200, $500. Like there's just like so much room there, and they're going to capitalize on people who don't know how to do shit, you know?
Yeah.
So if you do know how to do shit, then that's good because you can vibe code and fix the bugs. Like I would never change, like if I'm changing CSS to blue, I'm not asking the agent to do that. I'm not going to pay $1 for that.
Yeah.
I could do it myself. But I know a lot of people who would just continue prompting.
Especially the people who are not really engineers or programmers. They just have an idea, but they don't really know what they're doing. They just keep prompting until it looks good.
Yeah.
That's where they're going to capitalize. And I'm guessing also maybe in the future, like Lovable or whatever, they will use some cheap models first, and maybe they waste some money on that if it doesn't give you the right result, and then they go more expensive. But I think from the start, they just use super cheap ones. Like if you look at like Solnet 3.5, it's not a bad model, but if you can compare it to Opus 4.1 or even the regular 4.0, it is worse, but it does its job pretty good. So
it might be cheaper to iterate on a shittier model.
Yeah.
And then if you know what you're doing, like But then again, why would you want to use 3.5 when you can use 4.0?
But you don't get
You know?
the solution. You don't get the option. So Lovable does it for you, so you don't
Yeah.
see it, but you still think
Yeah.
you're using the best model. I think it's the same thing as like a cursor. Like if you use auto, sometimes it's super shitty, sometimes it's good because
Yeah.
they probably rotate models maybe based on their credits. Maybe they have some, like, I still have some leftover Gemini credits.
Yeah.
Let me use that instead of the Sonnet one or something.
I mean, it's a smart way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because like they don't have a model of their own.
Maybe eventually the same thing as if you use like electricity in the down hours, it's cheaper, and maybe it's the same thing when
I could see that.
models get cheaper also in the down hours, or
Yeah, they're like no vibe coding from 9 to 11 a.m. for the
Yeah.
same
Peak
energy.
hours.
too expensive to do 9 to 5, so you have to pay a premium. So all the vibe coders just stay up at night to vibe code.
Oh, we got a message from Paul here. I missed the start of the stream. Who beat Ward up? All right, Ward, you got to explain your black eye to everybody. Because
Yeah.
I didn't punch him, I swear.
Yeah, I was like putting a carriage behind my bike to get the kid to daycare, basically, and it's folded, so you have to fold it up again. And I had to put force to like make it click. And I was dumb enough to put my eye close to the bar, and it was close to my eye, so that's why.
You should have said you got into like a knife fight with someone, and this is like the only injury you walked away with.
Yeah, you should see the other guy.
You should see the other guy. So while we wait for the generations, we'll bring in another Mastra here, Nick, because while Replit was building their Agent 3, we got in a lot of people wanting to build agents with agents. So obviously at Mastra, we want to explore a lot of these things. So we built a very small initial version of an agent builder. So we'll do a little demo of that. Let's bring Nick on. So why don't we do that? And we'll mute ourselves. Welcome to the show, Nick.
I can't help but feel that you three are in the same bank vault. For anyone watching, I don't think you're going insane. I can't hear Nick either. Oh, but then again, you wouldn't know because you're in the same room.
Well, I don't know what happened.
He's
You had to restart Chrome or something.
yeah, to allow.
Okay, we couldn't hear Nick even though his lips were moving. So, but you wouldn't necessarily have known if you're in the same room because yeah.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back now.
Technical difficulties. All right. Okay.
All right, cool. Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Sorry about that. But it was bad. Okay, now I can show my screen and show off the template builder. So I'll just show it off right now in our. Let's start this thing up. So basically, our template builder is a way for users to bring in just if they have a Mastra project, they can go to our playground. Zoom in, got it. Okay. The way to if they have a Mastra project, they can go to this templates page and decide, oh, I want to have some pre-existing agents, tools, and workflows. I don't want to just to try playing around with it. So they can look at any of these templates, like a coding agent, Google Sheet analysis, generate flashcards from PDFs. They have all these different GitHub repos that contain different agents and tools that they can merge in if they want. So we have the ability to take a template and just merge it in using our template builder workflow. So for this example, I'm going to go with the chat with CSV. So like right now, it just gives each template gives like a brief description of what it does and what kind of tools and workflows you're going to be bringing in. So we're going to bring in the CSV tool. We have a CSV agent. We have a CSV to questions workflow. And then we have a few different providers we can use for downloading this template. So just to start out, I'm going to pick, for this example, OpenAI. I'm going to select the provider. The provider is basically, we use agents inside the workflow. And that provider basically selects which model we want to use for these agents. And I'll show that code later once we get to that point. So for this example, I'm going to use GPT 4.1. And then we have some environment variables here as well. So we have like a model that we want to set in our .env file for our Mastra projects. We have like an OpenAI API key and a model variable. So I'm going to stop sharing just real quick and just add in something right there. And then start the install process. But while that goes on, I come back and share my screen again. Okay, so while this is going on, so right now we have a few different steps within our template builder workflow. We have a clone template, analyze package. We're discovering units. So basically, like for cloning template, we just clone straight from the GitHub repo. We analyze the package.json of the template file to see different dependencies. For discover units, we discover different template units, so like different tools and workflows from the folder. We order the units based on like different internal weights, like which ones should take priority. We prepare the branch, which is like doing some. We make sure there's a GitHub branch just for this template, so that all these changes don't affect the main branch or whatever current branch you're on. And then we start merging packages, we install, and then we copy files over. And then we have certain steps like intelligent merge and validation and fix. They use agents to make sure that we're merging template files together and making sure that we're properly updating it to match the format of the existing project. So while it's in its validation step, I shall just show the code real quick for the template builder.
I have a question when you're ready, Nick.
Yeah. I'm ready.
I've used the, so I know if you go to mastra.ai/templates, you can clone and install templates from scratch. How is this different from that? It looks like it's doing something a bit more intelligent with those final steps there than just starting from scratch.
Yeah. So the rather than this one's done. Rather than like you can just clone from a template, but this creates a new folder, a new project, and then you would want to, if you want to bring it to an existing project.
Yeah.
Like say you already have existing agents and existing tools. You would probably, normally you would have to manually clone this, and then you want to bring it over to your existing master project. And then it's a lot of manual copy paste things you have to do. With our template builder, you're able to have an existing project and then just press one click to install, and it brings everything into your current project. So without you having to manually make any changes yourself. So you just install and it does it all for you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I can show you this off, but I'll show the code real quick just to go a little more in detail. So this is our current workflow. We have a agent builder template workflow. It goes all the steps right here. And it's all pretty this all happens in order and uses internal tools. So like I can show you like the clone template step. It basically we have some internal utility functions that will clone the repository, make sure all the files are correct, and then we have like editing for these files as well. Is there anything specific we should show off?
Show the agent builder.
For the agent builder? Okay. Our main agent is this agent builder class. So it's we basically create an agent that has like a bunch of internal tools we have in Git tools for mode, as well as like some memory and some processing. The main thing for the agent builder is these tools. So I'll show off the tools right now. We have a bunch of tools for template builders. We have like read file, write file, list directory, execute shell commands. We have a task manager to handle internal tasks, such as knowing what files to merge into our Mastra project, as well as like validation errors and what things that need to be fixed. We have a multi-edit tool that lets us edit multiple lines at once and multiple files at once. We have a replace lines tool that takes a multiple lines in a file and then does an outright replace of those lines. We have then we have validate code, which basically does a validation on a specific file and lets us know what errors exist in that for that file, and then those errors get added to our task manager to for the agent to fix in the validation step.
Can you share the instruction of the agent?
Yeah,
as well?
instruction of the agent. So each the main instruction for the agent is right here. Go to this, put the instructions right here. Oops, maybe I'll find that real quick. Default instructions. So our main agent builder instructions is we have this pretty comprehensive instructions for it. Make that bigger. Yeah. So it's like you're a Mastra agent, expert agent, specialized in building production-ready AI applications using the Mastra framework. And then it excels at creating agents, tools, workflows, and complete applications with real working implementations. And then we basically give it a lot of different capabilities and give it its role to transform natural language requirements into working Mastra applications. It has a deep knowledge of Mastra patterns and is able to produce production-ready code. And we basically outlined the workflow that has access to. So it'll follow this sequence for every coding task. It'll use the manage project tool to create a new project, and then go through each of these bullet points to make sure it properly creates the project. So like it'll use information gathering. So it'll use tools to understand patterns and APIs. It'll analyze the existing code base for naming standards and formatting. It has access to search for packages, examples, and solutions, and then can ask questions regarding regarding clarifications if any information is missing.
How long did it take to write that prompt or instruction? Or
This
how many
whole-
iterations?
It was a lot of iterations. I think as we were going through and testing everything, it took we just kept adding things we wanted it to do. So that
Are there models you would say don't use it with the agent builder?
They
They do not work properly.
Yeah, I'd say even with we have a lot of instructions and a lot of tools that kind of help with this process, but they a lot of weaker models like 4.0 mini, not very good with this. It just takes it ends up going in loops. Like Gemini models, not particularly great. We've had a lot of good results with 4.1 and 5. And that's basically a lot of our testing has been with those.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you have a good model, I think a lot of it is really just, even if with all the tools and all the instructions you give it, having a really good model just helps speed this process along and make it a lot faster.
Cool. Now let's mute yourself and everything. All right. Let's so let's move you out of here. So when we started doing agent builders, or we were looking at it, we wanted it first to serve the templates, right? We just had done the Mastra Template Hackathon. There's a whole bunch of templates, and a lot built by Alex and co. And the first thing we thought was like, yeah, templates are cool when you're starting from scratch, but like, what if you just wanted to add a PDF agent from a template into your thing because you need a PDF agent? And that's when we were like, okay, you could do this without LLMs like we did in the past, or we could start building this primitive in service of the templates to then expand to more things, right? Oftentimes we get asked, oh, I would love if I could just talk to Mastra to build my workflows. It's like, yeah, dude, that is a good idea. And so essentially, we're going to keep working on this primitive. If people want to build agents using agents, then soon you'll be able to import the agent builder into your own application, and maybe you can run your own Lovable or whatever, if that's what you want to do, or like an Agent 3 type of thing. Because our next foray after templates is to use the agent builder to then build workflows for you. That is our next milestone for the agent builder. So yeah, this is all very new to us. Thankfully, the patterns already exist from all the other products. So we'll be just bringing that to open source.
But it's also nice for people who are building to just look at the prompts, like how are we doing it? What's our success? And then iterate on it and build your own agent builder. Because I think that's what's lacking a little bit. Like you see Lovable and you see Veer Zero, and then you see prompt leaks, but you're never
Yeah.
sure that they're actually leaks or that it's just like LM came up with it. So it's good to see like a working example in the wild.
There was a whole era of Twitter culture in AI. When I say like an era, like it happened like years ago, is earlier this year, where every day people were just leaking prompts or like attempting to leak prompts because a lot of people wanted to figure out how are these products actually working, and they wanted to build. Most people don't want to build this shit themselves. That's most users' problems, but they want to know how it works, right? And so our prompt is open source. You can look it up. It's not the final prompt. I'm sure we'll keep changing it over time, but it definitely is not just a hello world prompt. It was definitely had some experimentation in there. Alex, question for you. Having essentially, fathered a lot of these templates and brought them into the ecosystem, what do you think about where we're going with all this stuff?
Well, I think when I first joined Mastra a few months ago, by the way, there was some existing templates. And while it's very productive to read about the primitives and the docs and build your understanding, that's not normally the question people have. It's like, how do I bring this stuff together? And so the templates in their own right are a great learning resource. And now we're getting a bit meta, where we're looking at the implementation of the agent that Nick built, which I think, again, serves in demonstrating how to bring some of these things together. It's very productive.
Yeah. Honestly, Agent Builder is probably a future template, right? So then it's even more meta, which is great. While you were demoing there, Nick, there got a lot of comments we should go to. Marvin said, "What's up? What's up, Marvin?
Bonjour.
Bonjour." And Paul is just chatting with Marvin in the chat. That's funny. They could just do it on Slack, but Paul's worried about it's not a work-related black eye. And I don't know how to pronounce your name because it's in a different language that I can read, but building from templates is the right direction. Otherwise, it's too free. Front end should too. All right. I mean, I get what you're saying, bro. So thank you very much.
To come back to Paul's comment, it's basically what HR told me to say.
Yeah.
Right.
There, we don't have an HR department.
No, just kidding.
Obvious HR.
I'm the HR department. I'm the one who inflicted it. So yeah. Anyway, cool. Should we
It's
check?
okay.
Back?
No, it's not like we're live or anything.
Should we check back on our Agent 3 stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. I was having a little peek, and so let's look at the Paris Meetup website. If you recall, we stopped it, then we resumed it with some guidance to turn it into English. It didn't do that, and I can't really fault the agent for doing this. And I think it is tempting a lot of the time to get frustrated with coding agents when I give it really lazy prompts. I think agents are always trying to please us by doing something like productive, and in this case it's built an email form which requires a SendGrid, and this isn't really what I was going for, so I might have to go back to the drawing board for this one. We were also looking at the London Curator. We didn't call it London Curator, but the agent gave it a name, which I always appreciate because naming stuff is hard. This is another really nice feature of the agent builder, is that, well, you might have thought off screen, I pasted that API key so nobody can steal it. But actually, you can configure secrets in Replit and it will automatically use them when needed. In this case, it knew my open API key already. It also is, this is totally appropriate using an environment variable for the user email in this case. And I'm just going to try my best to type my email without being able to see. Alex at Mastra.ai. Maybe that UX could be improved. It's not really a secret, I suppose, but yeah, let's say continue here and see what its first point of call is. We'll say no, we don't want to save the email as a secret. So to get us this far, it took about 8 minutes and it cost about $2. I'm pretty happy with that. And I think now it's probably basically doing the finishing touches. I'm actually a bit confused, guys, because in my inbox, I actually got an email from the, and I don't know how it did that because I hadn't told it my email. Yeah, I totally just did that. So that possibly could be to do with the other process I had running, but that one was waiting for input. So I'm not really sure what happened there. I'm a little bit confused. But, the nice thing about understanding some TypeScript is that we can poke around and get a sense of like if it's going in the right direction. I always say when trying to understand a Mastra workflow, a good place to start is the tools, because the tools are kind of self-isolated and they give you the building blocks that the agent's going to use. And so we can have a peek here and look at the London event scraper. It looks like it's using Cheerio, or Cheerio, however you want to pronounce that, which probably isn't what I would have done, but it's perfectly appropriate as well, I think. Cheerio is designed to scrape web pages. So it's identified, these all look good to me. Time Out is a popular magazine in the UK. Barbican is an event space. Design Museum is an event space. I think this looks okay. It looks promising, at least. We've also got the email generator. And if you've been using Mastra before, this should look really familiar to you because, well, it's using Mastra. We should be able to see that we create the tool with the same interface. A big part of tool calling is giving it a good description. I do appreciate that it's been detailed in the description. That'll make it easy for the agent to pick the right tool for the right job. We have the input schema. I'm pretty pleased with this. Sometimes agents produce a ton of bloats and I'm like, just dial it back a little bit. But this looks like probably the minimum necessary to build something really good. And then we've got this London, the content curator was the last tool. I have no idea what this would do, but maybe the tool, this is interesting. It looks like it's using AI SDK directly instead of calling into an agent. I think that's appropriate.
For the LLM call, yeah, they're just doing like an object call. Yeah, they could have used
generate object.
Yeah.
I kind of get it sometimes. I think when I first started learning Mastra, having to create a separate agent file to do a very focused prompt, when the agent didn't benefit from specific tools or memory config or something like that, I sometimes found myself wanting to do this. But I realized there are some advantages of creating an agent as well. Like it's a good separation of concerns. And I think it does help make things fit a bit better in the Mastra world with tracing and things like that. So it would be better, I think, if the model used an agent here instead of a prompt.
We have a thing in the chat from Jonty Brook. Apologies, I've just joined. Did you build this Mastra agent in Replit? Yeah, Jonty, we're demoing and trying out Agent 3, which uses Mastra under the hood. And it, as you can see, it did pretty good job.
Here's that database you were talking about, Abby. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool. You can actually inspect the data. There doesn't seem to be anything here right now, but we will see that soon. You can inspect the database. I also realized that when we were talking about we don't always know what model these agents are using under the hood. There is a high power option here for basically 5x the cost, but can improve the accuracy of the model. I think if I ran into an issue like a bug, I might conditionally turn this on to solve the bug and then go back to the other mode. Well, I hope that we could maybe demonstrate this right away. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but I'm also happy to move along. As it happens, this email is pretty good. I think it might have come from a previous little test I was doing, if I'm honest, but it will give you an idea of what the final product is here. I'm very happy with it. I like that it's including the dates. That shows me that it's relevant. These are actually like timely events, right, that I might be interested in going to, as opposed to the generic stuff that you would get if you only asked a model. I think that's a good start. And we've not really got to this yet. But what's really cool about this is that it's essentially a cron job, right? Like it runs on a schedule, 8 a.m. every Monday. When you hit publish automation, I think Replit just handle that deployment side of things for you. Like they have a notion of a cron job in their infrastructure. And so for creating like individual or personalized agents, whichever nomenclature you prefer, this seems like a really good way to go.
Yeah, you should click on that powered by Mastra thing real quick.
Yeah.
I believe you can go to the Mastra Playground for this.
No, really?
Really?
I thought you'd have to like clone the code and then run it locally or something. What?
Nope. They host the Mastra Playground as long as your shit's running. So, and if you publish the automation, the playground, I believe, is always running.
Oh.
So then you can interact with whatever you've built here as well. So,
oh my, that needs to be more prominent. I noticed they rebuilt. It's probably using the same. What's it called? The library we use.
Or React Flow.
React Flow. Yeah. I get the vibe they might be using React Flow because it's got the same backdrop, but it's a much more like, I mean, we've got bandy lines, guys. So everybody likes bandy lines.
I think initially when we were talking to them, they wanted to incorporate the playground in that view that we came from. And I just think there are some changes that we need to make on our side to make sure that's possible. So more to come there. I know this was like the first release of their UI there, but
yeah, I did a POC, I think 4 months ago with Lovable to do something similar, and there was just a lot of extra code they had to add to make playground or bits of playground work in it. So I think that's basically why they did it themselves. We just have to make it more modular, I guess.
Yeah. And we have plans to make sure that they take advantage of all the shit that we've built. So
because then you get free updates. If we do an update in the component, they get it for free.
And Jonty here. To clarify, are you saying Replit Agent 3 literally uses Mastra under the hood? Indeed. Indeed. This is pretty sick, though. Because, okay, let's talk about it from a business case and about making money, right? And no offense to Zapier, right? But why would I pay Zapier? If this continues to evolve, right? Yeah. And they have more integrations and the same amount of integrations as Zapier, I could just use this to build automations with natural language. Yeah. And Zapier, everyone's doing the same shit, but like with Replit, I could do other things other than automations. Now I just can do that in addition.
And custom code, right? Like basically if then else structure, which is fine for a lot of things. But if you want to like change some like input outputs or something, or do something custom, Zapier doesn't allow you to do it. The only thing right now, I still feel that Agent 3 is slow, like for a reason, because it generates all the code and stuff. But if I just want a workflow right now and I have to wait half an hour to check if it's any good,
Mm.
This did it in 8 minutes. We were just doing other shit, right? 8 minutes, $2 to get a London email. That's not bad.
Yeah, true.
And like, what? How much effort for we did? Nothing.
That's true. That's true.
Zapier, dude, we're coming for your milkshake, bro. Like, we're coming for you.
That is true. That is true.
And any other automation, like N8N. Why do you need N8? No offense to N8N, but like, I could just use Replit.
Yeah, that's true.
Now that's granted, right? This is a very simple workflow. There's no branching. There's nothing.
No.
I mean, we
There
could.
could be.
There could be, right? And yeah, just like possibilities there are
Yeah, that's
super
true.
sick, you know.
And you have
It's
some
kind of
code, and you can modify it if you're
Yeah.
a little bit of a programmer, or you hand this off to your dev team, like, hey, I did 90% of the work, and you finish it up or something.
maybe
Or
it's like the IKEA effect or something. But I feel a sense of ownership over this right now. Like this is my
Yeah.
utility, and I'm kind of invested to pass because I was just looking at the creator prompt, and it's talking about like personality match. Well, I can tell it a bit more about my personality and what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Do you want to do a test audit? Like if you go to the workflow view, I believe there's like a test run that we could run. Should we just do a little test run?
Oh yeah. I'm a bit nervous. I feel like it's in limbo. I think that's possibly because it's working, right?
Yeah. It's still working. What is it doing now? It's making moves.
Burning credits.
Burning credits.
Yeah, charging a credit card.
Another comment from Jonty here. 100% agree. Zapier make N8N is dead to me. Hell yeah, bro. And you can
I guess
execute
this
from
is-
Mastra too. That's sick.
Yeah, this is insane. I honestly didn't know you could do this. And it
Okay.
is. I hope. I hope, and I'm excited to share these. Like, obviously, we do a lot of work to ingest the stream and render these components. This is getting even better, right? With things like nested streams, where you could have a workflow running within a tool, and you can have the human in the input part. If you're wanting to expose something like this to your users, you might have to build it from scratch right now. You might end up building something like this. It would be sick if we could share some of that work with customers so they can benefit from it as well. In this case, the part I'm really interested in is like being able to click on the output button when it renders and get a little bit more detailed with like debugging and seeing what's going on, but it doesn't seem to want to resolve right now. I think it's fair. I think because it's kind of running like and it's doing its work and we're also trying to play with it. I don't think it's a totally fair test, honestly. But yeah. What do you reckon, Abby? Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on to some news. So yeah, if you're just joining us, what we've pretty much been doing, we looked at Agent 3, both in the web app mode to build a web app for our meetup in Paris. I'll give it a 0 out of 5 in terms of like what it did, which is unfortunate. And then we tested the agent orchestration feature. I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
because it's very simple. And then in my heart, it's a 5 out of 5, of course.
Of course, yeah.
And then we also have an agent builder as well. We kind of demoed that and how you can take our Mastra templates and merge them into your project via our agent builder, as well as the agent builder code. We went through a little walkthrough. So if anyone else is interested in building these types of features themselves, copy our code, use it. It's open source. And now we're going to get into the AI news segment of our show.
Abby, can you believe it? The second we send off, it finished.
You want to show it again?
Yeah, let's give it like 20 seconds to. It says, perfect. I've successfully built and deployed your advanced London Events AI agent. Here's what I've created for you. We'll just run it. So my inbox is empty right now. I'm clearly not very important. And then we'll run the workflow here rather than opening it in Mastra. By the way, question for you both. What do you do when your coding agent is like busy? Like sometimes I just have to look something up or respond to a GitHub issue and it's like it feels really fluid. But other times I'm just like twiddling my thumbs a bit. I feel like I'm just waiting 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes for it to finish. Have you got anything to fill the time, or have you got more skilled maybe at like filling those gaps with other work to be more productive?
So anytime that I have to wait for something, I try to do something else. So like in cursor, I'm a big cursor user. So any of my background type tasks, I use background agents for, and then I'm always being active on my main thing. And then also for me, the type of work that I personally do, I try to do smaller changes so I don't have to, so I can keep myself in the iteration loop. The minute I start getting distracted, I go on like YouTube and start watching
That's the
Mr. Beast
yeah,
videos.
yeah, or Twitter.
So yeah, I get super ADHD that way. So I try to make sure that I'm in the smallest iteration loop with the smallest leash as possible. What about you, Ward?
I do the same. So if I use like Cloud Code or something in my editor, I ask it like small things that are fast. And if I want to do like a bug fix and just want to let Cloud Code rip, then it's also a background task. So create a new branch and run it off. But yeah, mostly I do the same as Abi. I just make sure that the loop between cursor and me is small. Or I let it do something and I go in another file to change something just to make sure that I'm not dwindling my thumbs. So basically, that's the same thing. And if I have to wait like 30 seconds, I can quickly still open Slack, check if someone messaged me or needs some help. So
Looks like it's failing in this one step because it attempted it multiple times.
Yeah.
I wonder what the
Got some
error
kind of
is.
back off.
email or something.
Is that the error, or is that the email step, or?
No, this is the. That's a good question. I don't know actually. It's applied to the workflow.
Interesting.
I don't know how to go more detailed than that right now. Yeah, that's a little bit disappointing, I think, because if I'm looking at this and thinking, I actually don't. Of course. At the moment I speak, it changes. Rather than look at ingest, let me switch back to. Okay, so it finished, but this time with an error. This is yeah, I think it's in a bit of a sort right now because I saw it going back and forth about trying to call includes on undefined in the agent output, and it's kind of just given up and said it's done because that issue still persists.
Yeah.
We'll move on now. I think we could be here all day. We'll just highlight this one last thing. We won't be running it, but this is kind of part of coding. Sometimes you do run into like obscurities. And it's quite nice that when you're presented, and imagine you're not technical or particularly technical, there's this debug with agent button that will, I think, I'm imagining it will basically give the output here as a prompt and do its thing. So there is a path forward here potentially, but just not a path we'll get to finish today.
Yeah, it's probably some bullshit with that Cheerio script that I made, huh? Yeah. Cool. Well, I think everyone watching, you all should try out Agent 3. There's a discount right now. They're giving it away for hella cheap, $15, I believe, a month. And I think you can also start free. So if you want to play around with this, please do. I mean, we don't get anything out of it other than your usage of Mastra, so that's great. But yeah, let's move on to the news. So we have a bunch of articles today to go through, but I think we're going to start with something that impacts the JavaScript ecosystem. Once again, we have another security issue, and it doesn't necessarily impact us, but it is important to talk about. So let's go through it. So tiny color, you all have to be some like JavaScript old heads like us to know what tiny color really is, because tiny color has a second version, tiny color 2, that is safe from this attack. But yeah, Ward, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, just in general, I think that it's so hard to mitigate these chain attacks because you install like a dependency and it has so many other dependencies behind it that you don't even know about. And you could say, I will put this version of this node module in my project and hopefully never gets updated. But then if you ever update your log file, all those transitive dependencies might be updated because you have no control over them. I think it's just painful, again, that there's no real way to mitigate it. Like there are, like Socket has its own registry that you can use to prevent that, but that's also a little bit more harder to set up in those things. it's just a little bit sad that it happened again, and it's mostly like you can't you say like you can't blame the authors. I don't know how this one actually happened, but the previous one with chalk and stuff is basically they got fished to put their like change their password or something, and basically that's how people got into their registry and published packages. It's just sad it's so like easy to get
Yeah.
into those accounts and then publish, and then basically the whole ecosystem is messed up. So yeah, just a bit sad to see this again happening.
Yeah, and it's pretty much did the same exact method, right? The attacker, they compromised update package, which I don't know if you're not even supposed to use it anymore. Download the package tarball, you modify package JSON, you change the post install script to run any script that you want. Then you repack and republish it. And the only way you do this is if you have the owner's key,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then you can really screw everything up because anyone is probably not doing strict versions on tiny color.
No,
They're doing a open.
a carrot or something.
Yeah. So any post install in CI will trigger the bundle, this bundle.js that was made, and then whatever that does, and I think what it does is actually creates like a GitHub workflow in your workspace, depending, because you're already in CI, you already have the GitHub env,
Oh yeah.
and now you are access to everything, right? Now you can make some moves and destroy someone's life if you really wanted to. And I believe that's what they were trying to do. So this bundle.js script was run in post install. And what does it do? It uses the developer CI credentials, create a GitHub action workflow, and then you can get all the results at a certain webhook URL. So now you're stealing secrets,
Okay.
any type of secret that you have. And then, GitHub Actions have a secret repository that it's supposed to be safe. But and then if you put your env on any workflow step, right, you could leak the whole env.
Yep.
So it's honestly, it's kind of brilliant, dude. I'll just be honest. It's very brilliant the way that they did this. And so, yeah, this is the thing that they did. And then they stole a bunch of secrets, dude. And then once you steal secrets, you can then, I don't want to give anyone any ideas, but you could hold people at ransom.
Yep.
You could do a bunch of shit. Like you could abuse their OpenAI keys.
Or npm keys.
Or npm keys. You could delete stuff, which
Mhm.
is not good. But yeah, that's usually what these attackers are trying to do, is to hold you at ransom and take money from you. So security is really important. Do not get, obviously it's hard to do this sometimes, but two-factor auth, all that stuff that we call bullshit most of the time because of security, it's actually somewhat very reasonable. So yeah,
Yep.
Unfortunate though.
Yeah. But it makes us think at Mastra as well, like should we bundle more dependencies, so don't put them in package.json, but just make them part of the bundle, so you never have to install them, and then you're safe because the transitive dependencies don't happen again because they're not there. But it's a lot of work as well for us to keep things up to date, and not sure if it's really that useful, but maybe we should do it for the CLI because that's something people execute on.
Yeah.
And maybe core as well, like the two main packages. And then if, for example, like stores Pinecone gets tainted, it's only a small portion of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, more on that later.
All right, next topic here. This one did create some controversy, which is always good in the space. But Claude Code SDK supports custom tools and hooks directly in code, and they essentially wrote a bunch of guides on tool calling and stuff like that. Where this got interesting is where Swix came in. I don't know where Swix's thing is. Let's find that.
It was like a quote retweet, I think.
Find his quote tweet. I have it somewhere. And Swix, Swix is Swixing. That's all I can say about that. Let's share this one for everybody, and then we can kind of talk about it. Pretty sure that Claude Code SDK just destroyed every agent framework startup in existence. Holy shit, look at this. That was very strong. That's a very strong take, which I don't agree with, but
No.
you know.
It's similar to OpenAI, right? They have their own agent framework. It's good for if you use OpenAI, but I think it's the same with like Anthropic. It eventually had to come to this, right?
Yeah. And then I'm sure they're going to support multi-models too. It's like the writing is on the wall here. Problem with in the Cloud Code SDK, there's actually been some people who talked to us about they use the Cloud Code SDK as a model for their Mastra agent. And I'm sure like Cloud Code SDK model is already an agent itself, right, under the hood. And so I'm sure there'll be more agentic features that are added to this SDK. And it kind of comes to people's preference. Like, should I be using a framework anymore? Should I just do everything through Cloud Code SDK? I don't know. It's not there yet.
No,
but
the question is always, how much effort will they put in the SDK? Would they do observability? Would they do evals exactly as you want to? Because they have it, but how much time will they have put into it? Because does it mean if they put more time in this, would they put less time in the models itself, in like Cloud Code? And I don't believe that they would make it their star product. So I think they will always lag behind. But it's, I guess, good for building something small or getting your feet into building agents, those kind of things. And maybe probably under the hood, they may be using it as well. Like if you in Cloud Code could generate like an MCP server or something, why not use your own tool that they can train Cloud on?
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Alex?
Well, I had a question actually, because I'm still learning about some of these tools. And I understand that Claude Code is a coding agent, essentially. This is the Claude Code SDK. Is it like specific to building coding agents, or is it more general purpose? What is this equivalent to?
So for now, it is like, I think the word code in the Claude Code part is a little misleading. It's very similar to OpenAI agent SDK. This is like Claude Code SDK. It's just using the core Claude Code technology to then be an agent for you. So it has internal tools in the SDK, but then now you can bring your own tools. And so if you're building your own coding agent company, you could use Claude Code SDK as the foundation and then kind of go from there. But you have to imagine everyone's going to be more generic. So it's going to be a general purpose agent, and you'll be able to do more with it. And I believe Claude just add memory into Claude, the product, which means the memory primitive will probably be not too far away from this, right? The model companies want to rule them all. They're like Sauron from Lord of the Rings or something. Like, it's just the natural progression of it. And there are definitely engineering cultures out there that rock with one provider in everything that they do. Like, think about Shopify devs. They're very Shopify hardcore. They even do the Shopify with the Shopify UI elements, and like they're just into the ecosystem, right? And there are many OpenAI developers that are in the OpenAI ecosystem, regardless of other models out there. And that's why, and those are the users who use their SDK. Look at the Cloudflare environment and how I don't want to say that it's very religious, but it's very much a movement of using all Cloudflare products all the time. And this is another thing, Anthropic products all the time. Where we sit is a little interesting because we could easily get, there is a world where we would get destroyed by every model company, 100%. I'm not naive, but there are people who want to control their own destiny when they're building their own products. And I think us being like, more like flexible across all these things and having different primitives that are for application development and web development, etc. Maybe that'll make us survive the onslaught of all these model companies, but time will tell for sure.
I'll resist building on the Lord of the Rings analogy. I'm not sure that makes sense.
So we have a question, so Jonty had the same question, and Paul, it's AI vendor lock-in Mastra will work with most models and can be deployed anywhere. Yeah, it's not fair though because Paul's from our company, but I agree with that. AI vendor lock-in is a fear from a lot of developers because everything's changing so fast. They're like who they follow today changes, and as models change, I've seen people go from Anthropic fans to GPT-5, or when Codex came out, people were saying, "I'm only using Codex now." And it comes down to like I think the developer psychology here is it's twofold. One, people want to know what to do, and what they're doing is the right thing to do, right? And when they don't know what to do or what the right thing to do, they look to people who are experts in the field or running a company that's successful or whatever, and they just borrow those opinions and make them their own. I've done it, everyone does it. That's the way to go when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, right? Then there's the second phase of this, which is the world is changing so quickly that you can't necessarily follow different messiahs here. You have to kind of figure it out yourself, and you have to be a little bit more flexible. So those are the people that you see that are using every tool. They're changing every day. They're like, oh, I'm going to use this, I'm going to use that. And that's also a very valid thing. And they're forming their own opinion. And the lock-in there is like a little tough, right? Because you like essentially have 12 different AI tools. You're burning hella money, just using everything. But I don't know if there's a good answer for the general public. Like, what do I do? We get that question so much. Like, what should I do? How do I do this?
Start building.
Yeah.
Choose the framework you like the most. If it's not Mastra and you like Cloud SDK better, just build something. Eventually, you might grow out of it, or it's like I'm missing these features, but maybe Mastra or LangChain has it, and then you move to
It's
that
definitely
one.
not LangChain, but like the other ones for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So don't think too much about which SDK to use. Just start building, and then whenever you hit production or have like a MVP or a prototype ready, then you might think of like, hey, maybe I should switch to, because I don't want to put this in production.
Yeah. There have been many people who have switched from different frameworks to us, and people who switched from using Mastra to just doing it themselves, because the thing that Mastra helped them do was to understand how it works. So then they're like, okay, cool. Now that I understand how it should work, I want to do my own thing. And that's totally cool. That's called the graduation problem. If anyone runs open source projects, you have this thing called the graduation problem, where if you're writing a framework, you're essentially both doing education and writing a framework, because that's where people are using you because they don't know what to do or don't want to do it themselves, right? But then people who do want to do things themselves learn stuff from your framework, and then they're like, cool, I graduated from college now, I'm off in the real world, and that's totally fine. You're not an enemy of mine, that's for sure. Anything else we should talk about on this, or should we move on?
Move on, I think.
All right.
Well, what was this is interesting because I think Claude Code SDK has been around for a few months, at least 3 or 4 months. This screenshot shows them adding the ability to define your own tools. So like, what did you do before? And why is this such a big unlock that people like Swix are getting excited? Like, yeah.
So before the SDK didn't have tool call or custom tool calling. And those hooks are much like in AI SDK hooks, like on finish, on this, on that. So you can like plug into the execution of the SDK. Now they didn't have that before. They just added that, and it is cool, right? Because you want to start building stuff with the SDK, you can. As opposed to everybody else, though, this shit already existed, right? So it's not like,
right, yeah.
I mean, whatever, but
the built-in tools, they were things like reading a file or something to do with writing, because it was all used by Claude Code internally, right?
Yeah.
And I think people were looking at the power of Claude Code thinking, well, I want a bit of this power, but there was no option to give it that custom. Now you can. So that's why people are getting excited.
Yeah, and Open Code also has an SDK now too, to kind of on the same thing. Everything should be both terminal access or programmatic access. So it all makes sense,
Yep.
And maybe if you're building a coding agent, like say you're Replit or Lovable or something, I might guess my intuition tells me this might be a good SDK to explore for that purpose, right? Because it seems a bit more specialized. Yeah.
Especially, well then, but here's the wild part. like the GPT-5 codex model exists now, right? So now you like, why even use a specific one when you have a better quote unquote better? Everything's with a grain of salt, but now I can bring a GPT-5 codex model into my Mastra agent or any other agent, and now I'm like a pro coder built into the model. And like I probably not, even with the tools that we see here, like dude, like probably not going to use any of these tools. Like, why would a coding agent need to calculate compound interest? It's because it doesn't, right? It's because it's trying to become a generic agent.
Yep.
Also, this API signature sucks, but I'm not really caring about that. Yeah, but let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so we have 2 white papers to discuss today, but we'll start with the first one, and then we'll go on from there. Let me share this one. This is coding. It's let me share this shit. 1 second. So I wish we had Professor Andy, but now you have us. So this is from Salesforce AI Research, which is really cool that Salesforce is trying to get in the game of this. And very fitting right now because the whole industry right now is all about context engineering. It's the new buzzword. It's the new everything. And so this is a nice white paper called Loco Bench. It's a benchmark for long context LLMs. And they say in complex software engineering. I don't want to make fun of Salesforce, but I'm glad they added complex there because that's what Salesforce is. So just a couple like kind of talking points that I prepared for this, and we can just do jump offs. So I'll say that. So Loco Bench, what they do is they are doing like context management across different coding languages. So they have like different context windows with different variations. Some have like 10K tokens to 1 million tokens, right? And then the benchmarks actions, like what they're doing in the bench is like has different things too. They generated a bunch of files. They have 15 million lines of code. They try to make like realistic code bases, right? And then as opposed to like most benchmarks, according to them, they don't test all the scenarios, and low code tests like 8,000 scenarios versus less than 1,000 or whatever, right? Now I always take that with a grain of salt too, because when you're writing a benchmark, there's research behind it. You have to say that you're the shit in ways that are politically nice, I guess.
Yeah.
So
you always have to be a better benchmark than others, because why else publish it?
Yeah, and you want to get clout too. So
yeah,
and so like things that came out of this were really interesting to me. So every model shows performance degradation at scale. So as context windows increase, the performance decreases, which is interesting because the people like pumping
No
context windows and no RAG are like, they're not really talking about performance at the million context model mark. Because everyone cares, like everyone, when Gemini came out, people were like, oh, RAG is dead, which we also said that for fun. But like when you're trying to do complex tasks or things that require that context window, like the performance of the task goes down. If you're asking for the weather with 1 million window, like who gives a fuck, right? Like, and so anything that actually needs that context window of that size does not score well. So I thought that was really interesting. So that's like a performance note from this.
But wasn't that already known to people?
I thought so. I thought it was known. I thought there was benchmarks that back it up, but I guess there's another one, you know.
I think it's called context rot, right?
Context rot, yeah. But as these context windows are getting bigger, you don't really hear people complaining about context rot because maybe they got to the next level of, because the window has gotten bigger, like their application can perform under the window. But I don't know anyone actually pumping 1 million tokens on a request, right? Like on the input.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. So that was performance that they did. The second thing that they saw is like coding languages have a lot of bias. So Python's performance out of 5 is like 2.8 out of 5, which I guess is it's fair, right? Whatever. C, 1.9 out of 5. So system programming languages are harder because there's probably less training. on systems. And then web dev languages score better because they have more training data, which is something that I think everyone knew as well. But then on the other side, there are all these AI maxis that are saying that, oh, you could just use AI agents and coding agents to rewrite an old COBOL code base from like the 1990s, right? Is that true? Probably not. I don't know if there. How much is it trained on COBOL and older programming?
How many
language?
bugs will it have? Like it probably
know.
can read it and then kind of do things, but then how many things would it fail on or miss? Like maybe COBOL says like if I do this, there are these side effects that
Yeah.
I don't know of, and then the programming language won't, or the AI wouldn't even copy those with it. So that's probably part of it. So
The languages like Java score well.
Yep.
And there's so much Java code, enterprise Java code out there. So if you're doing like a J2EE type of work with the coding agent, it'd probably be pretty good. Ruby on Rails or Ruby in general, probably because so many companies of our era when we started out, like Twitter, etc., Airbnb, even Netlify uses Ruby, right? Like so, like a lot of people use Ruby because that was like the popular language,
Yep.
which then builds up the training data for that. JavaScript, obviously. But
maybe also registries like Ruby has a registry for packages. I don't know if C has one, like Java has Maven and so forth, and maybe that's also part of it.
There's a lot of way to get data for your.
And the web is easiest. You don't have to go to GitHub. You can just scrape a website and learn on that.
Yeah. So there's biases that which we all knew, except now there's some data, and there's always been data on this shit. It's just interesting to see that it's reinforced,
And I guess if Salesforce comes out with it, all the maybe non-technical people read it and they're just like, oh yeah, okay, and all the other ones maybe are not read by that, like those kind of people.
Yeah. Some hot takes on this. So there's this thing that they mentioned in the post called long context illusions. So, and it's kind of what we said, like models that claim million token context windows are mostly marketing fluff, which is so funny coming from Salesforce, by the way, marketing fluff. But anyway, as context increases, like the performance decreases. I believe the number they stated was like 29% to 3% success rate, which is really bad. Even the best models, GPT-4, I think it was like 2 out of 5 on some realistic tasks. And then this is the real hot take from this. Long context is the new AGI. I love that. I fucking love that. Because it just shows how the industry like follows buzzwords. And so if long context is the new thing, it's overpromised and underdelivered, Those are their words, Those are like my take from those words. Another thing that they also said was most AI benchmarks are toys. That's a pretty bold statement, but they have more test cases, so and so they were comparing to like human eval and some other benchmarks that don't have that many problem sets for the agents or the models to fix. This one has like 8,000 realistic scenarios. So yeah. And I think last point here, and I think you should take everything with a grain of salt, but this does seem directionally correct, of like the analysis that we've seen from other white papers.
Yep.
But I think it really hits home that like context engineering is important, but it doesn't mean that it's a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet here, Yeah. Any takes, Alex?
I was just flicking through the paper to see what the results have been running their own test. And it's interesting that they say that Gemini 2.5 Pro leads in overall performance and Claude Sonnet 4 is the strongest in code comprehension. It's really interesting to me that you still kind of sometimes have to pick the right model for the right task as well. That plays a factor. And they also write that GPT-5 excels in architectural understanding. That makes me really interested to see what would happen. Like, surely they'll run the same benchmark against the new Codex 5, right? That'd be quite interesting to see.
Yeah. Though I don't see benchmarks getting updated after they're published, huh? That's you do it for the clout and you move on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, Salesforce. Well, hopefully they have more things coming out. They definitely have the resources to do a lot of this AI research. I think also everyone has to think like to do a research paper takes a lot of work, right? You see how many like authors are on this thing. They also have to get paid for like a job too, so that's like quite a bit of money to publish something. Maybe we'll publish something one day when we have the time and or money, but yeah.
I think the big takeaway is that basically what they say is that all the other benchmarks do like a low amount of problems, and this one is a lot of problems, but they come to the same conclusion, I guess. So it means that this paper kind of validates all the others if you even push it to more examples.
But they spend more money, right?
Yeah.
$8,000. We spent $8,000 on our like long mem eval like problem set for our benchmarking. So imagine how much 8,000 problems run across different programming languages. I don't know if they put the money in here. It probably didn't, but like that's a lot of token usage.
Maybe they invested in the seed rounds of Anthropic or OpenAI, and that's how they got all those credits.
Oh, for sure. Oh, they use all their Anthropic credits just for the benchmark,
That's how they got like billions of seed money to companies. Half of it is Salesforce.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I'll just do the other white paper while we're here, and then we can move on to non-white paper stuff. So OpenAI released a white paper on why language models hallucinate. I thought this was super fascinating. I think everyone should read it. It's not a hard read, and like to read white papers, it's not an easy read most of the time because they're kind of verbose. But these are not the type of PhD papers from the past, right? Research equals production in a lot of ways now. So when you're reading these things, they're abstract thoughts and stuff, but they're all backed by things that are happening. Also, when we were in university and stuff, like the system programming white papers and stuff were so fucking boring. And then there would all be so many equations and like how to do things. This is more so like these qualitative results and have quantitative backing. It's way easier to read an AI white paper than a biology one. So you should take advantage of that if you're technical enough. You should start reading white papers. You can use Claude or OpenAI to help you digest information. You don't even have to read it, right? But you can kind of know what's happening. But it's a good skill to like learn how to read white papers.
It's like a blog, like an advanced blog post, basically.
Yeah, it's a white paper is like an advanced blog post that's posted on a different site, then cross-posted to Twitter, and you get clout from it. So you should definitely try looking into it.
I want to agree with you, but if you scroll down to the bottom of this paper, it gets a bit gnarly. The last documents, they have all the formulas and shit.
Yeah.
No, that's not too bad. If you go down even further to like page even further.
There's to calculate hallucination.
Even lower.
This is the bill or the credits. Look how many people
Half this is credits. Yeah. This stuff gets a bit gnarly, I think.
Yeah. Did I study mathematics in college and stuff? And we had to do this as on a test. We had to like have a theorem to prove. So this is pretty gnarly for sure. But what it's measuring is something understandable. It's like the hallucination gap, But yeah, this is why they get paid the big bucks, at OpenAI. Let's talk about this though, despite the sigmas here that you could see. Also, this is from this type of analysis is called real analysis, and it is mathematics, but it is more of a concept of modeling reality, and that's why these equations are so gnarly, and there are a lot of symbols involved. They just represent real analysis. So I think builders never have to do this shit, so don't get scared, anyone. But so the whole thing is like why language models hallucinate. So first, they kind of like talk about there's two stages, and they both have problems, right? We have pre-training, right, and post-training. Those are the two stages of like model development. Let's say in pre-training, so models hallucinate during both, and so during pre-training, models they hallucinate because of statistical necessity. So what that means is it can't tell the difference between true and false. So it'll just do both, right? And there's an interesting reason why I'll get to. In post trainings, like post training, and Professor Andy has come on the show to talk about post training and reinforcement learning. The basis of both of those things is to reward. There's this thing called a reward function that you give the model, and as it answers correctly, it gets the reward. But the problem with sometimes the model will purposely answer or figure out how to game the reward function by giving answers that look structurally correct that invoke getting a reward, much like a human trying to cheat, right? And so because like hallucinations happen in post training, it's because like the reward function is doesn't necessarily know if the answer is right or wrong, so it'll give the reward, right? And so that's interesting problem. Like how do you get over it? Technically, it's not necessarily getting over it. It's like a fact of life that hallucinations are like mathematically possible. And so the main thing that they say is the reason why is that LLMs are like have this thing called the student syndrome, right? They hallucinate the same reason a student guesses on exams. Because if you guess, let's say in an exam, you only worry about the results, right? Unless you're doing like mathematics and stuff where you have to write stuff. If it's an A, B, C, D, and you don't know the fucking answer, you could guess C on all of them and you have statistically 25% chance of being right. So the system rewards you regardless, right? Even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Same thing with LLMs. Like the system rewards confident answers, not right answers. Because a confident answer has a structure that you can then reward. But it doesn't necessarily know if the sky is blue or not. You know, those are facts, right? And that's super interesting. Because like they tested this like by asking for a certain person's birthday, and they got 3 different wrong answers from different state-of-the-art models, and it's because the LLM is not trained to say I don't know.
Yeah.
Imagine if LLM said I don't know, though, the whole world would end probably. Instead of absolutely right, like you're absolutely right. What if it was like I don't know, bro? Like, but then those 3 words or whatever is like. It destroys the ethos of an LLM. It destroys the whole point. It should never say, I don't know, but maybe it should, though.
Maybe it should say, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's this, because that's what you do as a human too. You basically say, that's a good question. I actually don't know, but if I have to answer, I would say this.
Yeah.
But I think it's too difficult for an LLM to do it that way. And I think it's similar to if you have, I guess, fake news and those kind of things. It's sometimes also pretty compelling to believe what the news is about, because it says something and then it states like, this is the reason why this is true. Yeah. And I think the LLM, if it says a confident answer, you would follow it as well.
So like here's a great point. So binary evaluations of language models impose a false right-wrong dichotomy, and they award no credit to answers that express uncertainty, omit dubious details, or request clarification, which is interesting because you would never penalize a student for seeking more knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So blah, blah, blah. Under binary grading, abstaining is strictly suboptimal. I don't know type responses are maximally penalized, while an overconfident best guess is optimal. That's so interesting, dude.
But it's a bit normal, right? Because they are pre-training and post-training, so they make basically a human brain, and then you ask the human brain the same thing if you read a textbook, and it's the only textbook you have read. It's basically all your knowledge comes from that one. Who are you to say that something is untrue because you might have read it in that book, but maybe the book is not 100% true, or maybe it doesn't have the latest information. So I kind of get it from like a programming or like a modeling standpoint.
Yeah, I can get it from like a human psychology standpoint, because I mean we're all trying to emulate intelligence, right? And the only like I don't know, like, have you ever had a teacher who was like a rough teacher? So you can't say, I don't know. They'd be like, what do you mean you don't know? And then you start like,
Fumbling.
you're like, is it the square root of pi with like a question mark at your voice? And they're like, is it, or is it really, you know, like that type of stuff versus like a teacher who is like, oh, you don't know? Well, okay, let's look at the appendix. Like you should look at these things and things like that. And so my LLM calls never hallucinate recently. And that's because I've changed how I talk to my models by giving it all the context that I know at least. And when it starts going off the rails and stuff, I don't give it a reward. I destroy it with my words in a very mean way. So it always says I'm absolutely right, of course, right? Because I am. But that's kind of little tricks I've been using just because subliminally, right? But now I feel like that is actually pretty good. And we're not even training the model; we're just using it. So
Yeah, I've been doing that a little bit. If I have to write some text or like an email or something, I mostly prep the email myself already, and then I just ask it like, can you improve the language, or if you read this, how like what would you get from it? And then it basically does a pretty good job of like making it better. But I hardly ever say, can you write me this? So I try to use, and then for coding, it's more like, hey, can you do this? And then it does half the job, and then I prompt it to do things better. But if I really want to write something, I do a lot of the work myself first, or I let it do research, and then I write something from that, and then let it improve it. Where in the beginning of my journey of AI or LMs, it was like one sentence prompt, and it gave me something that okay, but you can't really work with it. So I think that's my evolution as well.
I'm scared about this shit, actually. I was thinking about it. This makes me really scared about hallucinations. We're using coding agents, so our hallucinations are both acceptable and preventable, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not using a medical model, and I have no way to evaluate it if I were to use one. And if a doctor was using one and they're in a different specialty, dude, I'm scared, right? What if it is hallucinating? I'm a cardiologist and I'm somehow in an emergency situation. I don't fucking know. And I'm using my medical healthcare agent and it just tells me to do the wrong thing, or because it can't say I don't know, or it cannot route to the person who is actually supposed to know. That's really scary.
Yeah, it is.
And we don't see it because we're using coding agents, dude. Our shit's not gonna kill someone. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think it's gonna kill anyone, except if you're using these like maybe like electrical systems and all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. You could easily build something that is completely fucked.
Yeah, that blows up after a while or something, or
Yeah.
at a certain condition.
And like OpenAI is making a life sciences model. I wonder how the hallucinations will be and what evals are they doing? Are they just taking like a biology book and like making that happen? That's scary, dude.
It also depends a little bit, I guess, where you live in the world, because I'm pretty sure like in EU or like in Belgium, it's going to be very regulated that you can't use a model. But I do believe that in other parts of the world, they might do it, and then you just end up like making it worse for people.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Alex?
Well, it's a very thought-provoking discussion, and thank you for explaining this in such an accessible way. I really enjoyed that, and I don't have anything to add.
Nice. Well, that worked out. Anyone watching, please read this if you want to get scared like I just got scared. But if you're in the coding agent mentality, this is pretty interesting anyway. So I think it's really good. Also, OpenAI research, they publish good shit. Like, I know I talk shit about OpenAI a lot, but everything they do is just so well done. And you can never hate on them for that. Everything they do is just chef's kiss. So even this. All right, let's move on to the next thing, which is kind of funny. There's some backstory on this one too. So last week or so, Anthropic released the MCP registry, which is awesome. I feel like it's been a long time coming for this to get out. So what is the MCP registry? So it's an open catalog and API for all the public MCP servers. So here's the story. So story time. Back in like February, when we were starting Mastra, we had just built our first MCP client for Mastra. And the first thing that we thought of was like, how do you know what MCP servers are out there? At the time, and still exists, that there were MCP server companies, and they still exist. So there was MCP Run, Smithery, Composio. Actually, at the time, Composio didn't have MCP support in their product. It was just API support. But the minute MCP started taking off, they converted their libraries into now an MCP server. And then I think there was like other newsletter type companies that just maintain a list, like Pulse MCP was one. And then there was another MCP like thing called Open Tools, all people that we know, right? And so we saw that there were so many different, people trying to build on this like registry concept that we were actually talking to all of them originally to see if there's anything we could do for discoverability. That's the whole point of a registry, right? NPM is a registry, Yarn package registry, freaking Maven is a package repository, aka registry. It's for discoverability and for you to install shit easily in your project, right? And so at the time when we talked to all these MCP companies, they were like, Anthropic is working on the registry spec, but we can't necessarily wait for them. So we're just going to build our products and then we'll become registry compliant after. And so, so that's what this is. We also, just to plug our meme about this whole world, at the time, we were just like, there's so many registries coming out. We actually put out like a funny yet real web page called the MCP Registry. And obviously it started off as a joke, right? But it's completely real, like in a sense that these are all registries that exist, and many companies wanted to get on this page, which is cool. Hey, if you want to get on this page, open a PR, you're more than welcome to. But like, this is the registry. Now we have to add the real registry to the registry
Right.
to make even more meta. But so that exists. Let's go back to this blog post here.
Abby, I've got a question for you, mate. So I suppose with something like NPM, I don't often discover a package in NPM. Like I know what I'm looking for, or someone tells me to install it in a README or something. I suppose you could discover packages that are trending or related or something. When I think about MCP, there is that aspect of looking something up specifically. You go to one of these registries, you look up Figma, you look up whatever to know it exists. But I can't help but feel that if we want our agents to be more autonomous, like, is there a story here around them being able to like explore everything available to them and conditionally connect to different servers or something like that? I'm kind of curious about the bigger picture and the vision for agents and how they could utilize an official registry in this way, or maybe it is truly like NPM, a tool for developers to find what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and that's where all this stuff is headed, right? So Smithery, in the first kind of exploration of this, has a bunch of tools called, I think it's like the Smithery box or something, where it can, when you have a registry, so here's like the best part of a registry. You can expose search APIs to your registry, and if every item in your registry has a bunch of descriptions and shit, you now have a search product that can be built into your MCP registry, much like NPM. So if you have search on your registry, now you've unlocked a tool call for an agent. Now, once you've unlocked a tool call for an agent, now you can have reasoning to do the next step after the tool call. So Smithery allows you to do this as well, where you can search the Smithery registry for, let's say I'm looking for a way to send email. Well, it can then look for all the email tagged. Both registry items both have descriptions and they also have tags. Like if you're trying to do any type of categorization, so you can look at all the email or productivity MCPs to narrow the list down. Then the second thing it can do is install the MCP into your Smithery box. And now the agent has access to both I call it the Smithery box. I forget the name, but like it's part of your Smithery instance. And now
You
that it's
said that
part
at
of,
the moment I Googled it and I was like, I can't find this thing.
it's a Smithery instance, but I just call it a box, I guess. And then it can add more MCP servers to the instance. So then now when it does rediscovery on its Smithery instance, it knows it has the email tool now. And then boom, now it can then use it, which is what we call, I don't know what we call it, or we call it this, but I don't know what people do. It's this term called skill acquisition. So an agent can acquire skills by your prompt, not by you having to know that this MCP server existed.
But you still have to add it to your list. So basically, like a pre-approval step, like I approve these kind of MCPs.
Yeah, that's if you want to do it, or you can go YOLO mode and be
yeah,
like, do all that, right?
Yeah.
So
not today, but maybe in the future, right? As we get more confident.
Yeah, but I think that's also the downside of like letting a registry find all the things for you, because they have probably curated it a little bit. But what if you use, let's say, the GitHub MCP, but you don't use the official one, and you take a shady one and you just let it rip because you don't really know what your agent is doing?
Yep.
It could like compromise your secrets or something. So I think that's the worry of just connecting a registry to your agent, because you don't really know what MCPs are doing under the hood.
Yeah. I don't know why my mind, it goes more towards, like suppose you have an agent that can read your emails and then read spreadsheets and then look up your tax return from last year. And maybe it has to do like a little web search as well. Like these I can kind of imagine a general purpose agent, that ability to acquire skills depending on, because anticipating everything would be impossible, I think. And you end up building very specific agents for specific domains or verticals or use cases. But with a registry, I wonder like what the potential is for a general agent if it can do this in a way that's secure and reliable.
I think if you have like an MCP registry that maybe rates like MCPs in them, like they make sure that, for example, the GitHub one comes from GitHub, then you're pretty sure it's okay.
Yeah.
And if it's like, if you use like Figma, if you come from Figma, you're pretty good. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the next level. Let's also, if you look at like the NPM ecosystem, like socket.dev is like a audit tool that goes through all the NPM packages and scores them, like maintainability, what's the latest update, what packages do they use. Like, let's assume you have such thing for MCP2, then you could just say like, if they hit this kind of validation, then you can just use it without asking.
Yeah, dude. Registries always incite capitalism, because once a registry exists, you need to be able to search it. You need to be able to maintain and moderate it, which is the plight of any registry, is knowing if the modules within the registry are good or not. And like we talked about earlier in the show, people want to know what the best thing to do is, or they want to be told, right? So if I go to the registry and there's 5 different GitHubs and there's not any indication which one's the best, I'm going to have a fucking problem, right? Most people will.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel that this community-driven mechanism for moderation never works, ever. So good luck to MCP there, because we did this at Gatsby. We've done this in NPM land. It never fucking works. You have to have people who are the stakeholders for the whole registry, and they take it personally that there is not 5 GitHubs, and their whole life is making sure the registry is up to date and bug-free. Community-driven stuff is like an agent. Sorry, this is an economics term, but like there's like a moral hazard problem, the agency problem, where once you get one package that is terrible, and that just lets in other shit, right? The minute you have one, and you just fuck up the whole thing. So now one last thing. With this registry, at this point, registries are not new in the MCP space. Like here, you can say you add your servers to the MCP registry, which is just like in GitHub or something. And then like the client can hit this API. Like this stuff exists in Smithery and all the other guys, right? Now, what they're trying to do is become like the default standard, and then you can have like sub registries, which I guess Smithery would be like a sub registry. And one thing you can do in Smithery is make your own private registries, which is then, once you get a registry, it incites capitalism. What do enterprises want? Private sub registries. Who's going to sell it to them? Anybody, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to. So, yeah, pretty cool though.
Yeah, I think it is useful if you can host private registries because it probably has like the search APIs, the indexing, and all those things. So it's technically the same thing as like NPM for the JavaScript ecosystem. Like, why would you pay NPM to do private and not just host your own Verdacio or whatever? It's just convenient. So I think it's still useful to have it. And they have the name, right? Like, if you should choose between like Smithery or OpenAI or
Anthropic.
and you don't really know the space or you don't know Smithery, you would by default go for Anthropic because they made the spec. They probably know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they're probably going to make some money with that.
Yeah, there's definitely a bias to the creator, right?
Yeah.
But like in the same vein, we have, let's see, we have this. Smithery now mirrors to the official MCP registry.
Nice.
RCI will handle the setup for all deployments and publish
them.
the official registry. So this is the answer to if you already had a registry, what are you going to do to coexist, right?
Yeah, and my guess is that Smithery or all the other ones, they hopefully will do some curation eventually or have something like this is trusted, this is not trusted. And if I read the blog post about MCP registry, it's community driven, so probably not be like curated well enough. So yeah.
But what happens to businesses like this? I mean, we're Smithery fans. We're friends with everybody at Smithery. Like, what happens to your business? Like, that's my question. And I'm curious maybe we should ask them to come on and we could talk about this, the economics of registries.
Step up their game, I guess.
Yeah.
UI, ease of use, maybe debugging,
Deployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got a playground there as well.
Yep. They have a playground. You can do SSE or you can do the streamable HTTP servers from them. They don't have private, but I'm sure they will have private soon because capitalism. But I just wonder, like, what's the end game then? Because like the official registry will probably do all the same shit too. So if I were to be like a bear in this market, I'd be like, yeah. But I will say Anthropic took a long ass time. So if you do need a registry, I wouldn't use their official one.
Mhm.
I'd still use Smithery, And maybe that's the case for a lot of people too.
Yeah, they probably will pivot a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah. Unless Anthropic's going to get in the business of hosted registry. I mean, for money and whatever.
Yeah, but if they add like security auditing or whatever, the Smithery guys, then that's a step up. Because if you look at, I always go back to like the NPM ecosystem because that's what I'm used to. There are like paid registries as well. Like for example, socket.dev, you can pay them and they scan all your GitHub repos to see what's like malicious or something. That's something NPM doesn't do and probably won't ever do. So those extra benefits are good for enterprise. They might not be for the John Does of the world, but they probably will make a buck or two out of it.
Yeah. What do you think, Alex? Like,
I have to admit, I hadn't really heard of Smithery before this call, but it's really piqued my interest to learn more about them. And when Anthropic released the MCP registry, maybe it's a bit of a noob perspective, but I was kind of expecting it to have like a user interface and stuff like that. I thought they would be doing but it's very much a database, it looks like, and that's all it is right now. I don't know if that's the end game or if that's just the beginning of like a path they're venturing on now to probably.
That's the beginning, because they originally started with the registry spec, now that they've implemented the spec and people are now contributing to the core part of the spec, which is the data, now you can create an API, you can create a search API, which they essentially probably already have. And then you can create a UI, and then you can link it directly into Claude, and then you profit, right? So that's the steps for anybody here.
Is there specs sort of? I guess it took them so long because writing specs is really hard, especially when you
Yes.
put it out into the world. You want it to be. So I think that's the reason why. Are they thinking about some unique problems here, or are they the same thing Smithery were thinking about? I imagine they're both working on the same problem. They just might have come to slightly different solutions.
And like Henry from Smithery is a MCP contributor.
Oh, cool.
And they're
That's worth
all-
noting for sure.
Yeah, like
I always associate MCP with Anthropic, but it's Anthropic et al. Right? There's quite a few
Right.
people involved. Yeah.
there's a lot of cool homies working on the MCP community and everything. But you're right, dude. They blazed ahead from where the spec was. Plus, like the spec was like not really moving that quickly, and people were getting all like annoyed and shit. So all the companies just went forward. But then you get in a tough place where now you have to be like co-publishing to the registry. You have to, and Henry is such a cool dude in general, but like that was his plan all along. He's like, I'm gonna keep doing my shit, and then when this thing lands, I'm gonna make sure I support it, no matter like whatever it may be. And so, good on them for doing that. I gotta double check to see if everyone else is like co-publishing or not. But they definitely were like first movers now in this space too.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the future holds for these guys, but hopefully it's good stuff.
Cool attitude. I just followed him on Twitter and I posted Henry's handle in the chat if anybody else wants to follow them as well. Looks like a good follow.
Very good follow. Cool. Let's go on to our last piece of news. And we kind of mentioned it already, but OpenAI
big one.
updates Codex with a new version of Jeep. What the fuck is this?
Ads.
God damn.
What the fuck? Welcome to the EU.
Welcome to freaking TechCrunch. God damn. OpenAI upgrades Codex with the new version of GPT-5. If you're not living under a rock, you should already see this blowing up on Twitter. You should also see people like Greg Brockman, who's he was a CTO, but now I believe he's like president or something of OpenAI. I forget his new title, but he's saying like this is a game changer. Like essentially shots fired. Like Codex GPT-5 is the best. And so, has anyone had a chance to play with it yet?
No, I haven't. I'm stuck with my Claude code.
We were in the original Codex beta,
I used it then, but then it was sucky.
and it was pretty trash. But then it got a lot better since like 5.0 and stuff like that. But having the Codex model, which is like, because Codex is a coding model, but then GPT-5 is a mixed model which has superpowers, right? It can under the hood is like an agent network or a model network where you can then route to different models that are for the task. So now you have a reasoning able coding agent that also has mixed models. It's pretty fucking sick. And I would guess a lot of people are going to build models like this architecture.
Yeah, routing one.
It's trending now.
Yeah. And so like this makes me, I'm not scared or anything, but it makes me worried for all the coding agent products.
Yeah, because they make such a good model. But then again, I think if they expose the Codex model, I could still be the better UI and maybe change the system prompt a little bit or modify it so I still get better results. But then that's more for the maybe non-developers or the more like people or the companies that market better. But as a raw developer, I would probably use Codex rather than like Lovable.
Yeah, or maybe people will start using Codex under the hood in all these products. It seems like we're all kind of, this is how technology goes, right? But we're all kind of aggregating on the same point. We're all coming to the same conclusions, right? And those with money will survive, essentially.
Yeah, the question is how many of these startups will be here in a year or two.
Yeah. So typical OpenAI announcement. You have a benchmark. So GPT-5 High, this is pretty good. And then refactoring tasks, this can refactor things a lot better. I did hear that Codex is a little bit overeager in refactoring, which is just a notable thing that people noticed. It just wants to do it.
Maybe it's in their system prompt. You have to refactor.
Always make the code better.
Be a junior dev. Think you know better.
Yeah. They also use it. Oh yeah, the great thing about Codex is they use it internally to do development at OpenAI. So like they're their own kind of eat the dog food or whatever, or drink their own champagne.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And I remember seeing their use of it too. It's very interesting. It's definitely like a world that necessarily more people will start being in, where like you just are using tools for everything, and Codex is one of them. But yeah, any thoughts from everyone about where this will lead us? Is it going to disrupt? Any thoughts from the chat? Is this going to disrupt?
I think a big draw here is that for easy tasks, it's meant to be a lot quicker, but then for more complex tasks, it will think more deeply. And so it should feel, and it's a lot about feeling, isn't it? Like it will feel faster, it will feel breezier, you'll stay in the zone a bit longer. I don't know, because this is the same thing GPT-5 pioneered in a sense and made popular, isn't it? Which is like the routing aspect. And now it feels like that felt quite new. I don't actually love it in GPT-5, by the way, because sometimes it goes into thinking mode. And I'm like, I got the same answer to this question without thinking a lot faster. And it kind of annoys me. I have to stop it from thinking. But then in a code base, that might be exactly what you need, right?
Yeah. I do think GPT-5 gets into reasoning mode way too much, or thinking mode, whatever. And that also costs money, but also it's too slow. Because I could already think about it myself then, like why did I give it to you if it's gonna take so fucking long,
But that's why it's probably good for Codex if you just use it for background tasks or refactorings that you don't want to wait for.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't really matter how long it takes, and then
Yeah, for background coding tasks. Ooh, I'm gonna run an experiment with Codex on that. That'd be interesting because it has to then. I'm gonna see if I can have it discover the code base itself. Like you go, come back with your report, and then once you come back with the report, I'll give you your first task. Then ask it, hey, what'd you learn about the code base? And then do it another one, which will just be interesting.
Because that's what I do too. Is I ask GPT-5 to make the plan and then use Opus or Sonnet to do the coding. What was my thought here? Basically that I guess if it could do it all, like maybe this is the model for creating like big tasks or big projects or larger things, because it can do planning well.
We also thought that other white paper that five tasks, right? Codex, right? Yeah, play on it, let everyone know.
Okay, once let's assume I'm a power user, I would have to pay for GPT, maybe pay only for OpenAI.
What do customers want? They want to be told what to do. They want to have a single invoice.
Yeah.
They want to pay one person and they get everything they ever want, right?
Yes.
That's usually what it goes down to. We have a question from Paul. What are your thoughts on model gateways? Well, that's a good question. What's your thought?
Sorry, new question. What is a model gateway?
Sorry, say it again.
What is a model gateway?
It's like a Vercel AI gateway where you basically do one request and they handle the routing, I guess.
Yes and no. Yes, but no as well. Like I think there's different classifications here. So one is like a model routing from a model itself, right? So like GPT-5 has submodels. but you don't ever care about them because it's not a public API to you.
Yeah.
So that's one type of model routing. Second type of model routing is you yourself use OpenAI, Anthropic, and whatever the fuck you want. And you yourself are, based on the user's input task, you're like, oh, I should use this model for this, and you should use this model for that based on your project, what you're trying to do. Then there are companies that are called model routers. So Vercel has one, AI Gateway.
Open Router
has
Open
one.
Router, yeah.
Helicone has one, and that's just you pay one person and you get all of them, and then you can do the same type of thing in your product. I think more companies are going to have model gateways like this because it's an advantage to one invoice, right? One invoice, one payment, and you're good to go.
It's for enterprises, right? Like they like to pay one invoice, and it makes them switch quicker to different models or play with it, like A/B testing, even those kind of things. And maybe if they have chosen, for example, Mastra as a framework, or even a lower level like OpenAI again, they can put like a gateway in front of it, then they don't have to change their code.
Yeah.
They just have to change the model.
I mean, like the history of gateways, though, like where they came from is because, like, for example, there's companies that are like hosted companies, let's say like OpenAI and Anthropic, that they're at the time there were no open source variants of this where you can host it yourself. You have to use their API. Then there was like a freaking proliferation of open source models that you have to run yourself, but they do have OpenAI compatible endpoints. So then if you're smart and you believe in capitalism, you're like, oh, I'm going to build a product that can support the open source models and the private models and any new model. And that's when all these model gateways came. Fireworks AI is one as well. And they're a big one. They're like worth like $500-some million. So there's money in this space too. Do you think OpenAI and Anthropic will model gateway themselves to then to truly encapsulate the whole industry?
I don't think so, because that's what basically GPT-5 is basically doing, more or less. Why would they make a public gateway?
Yeah.
Because it feels like they're moving away from that.
Yeah. One thing that people take for granted, though, is it's not like OpenAI is available everywhere in the world. Like, it's definitely not available in the Middle East, right?
Really?
Yeah. So,
I didn't know
like,
that.
you
Is that
can't
a
use
political thing?
It's, I think, probably. I know in Saudi Arabia, you can't use any of the foundation models, just
None
the
of
way.
the US ones.
None of the US ones. You have to use open source.
Okay. Then a gateway is your life.
Then you have to use a gateway.
Yeah.
So, but
If
even
you want to use the American models, yeah.
no, you can't. But well, technically, I guess you could through a gateway use OpenAI.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the implications of that legally are. You know,
It's like a VPN at that point.
yeah, because like if you do, like a lot of this is data privacy concerns, right? If you are using that, then that data gets transmitted. I don't know what shady shit they're doing out there. I'm just kidding, but like
no, but it's the same, I guess, as DeepSeek, the Chinese models. Like if you use the online version, it's like limiting stuff. Like it removes pieces and stuff. And when you use the open source or you build it yourself, then you have don't have that restriction anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something similar. If they use a gateway in China, you don't get those restrictions. But yeah, legally, I don't know if it's allowed.
Yeah.
Just to bring this.
Yeah, bigger than us.
Go ahead.
Just to bring it back to Codex. So Codex is like OpenAI's coding agent tool, right? It's like their version of Claude Code, I think. Yep. Would you be able to use Codex in like Cursor, or do you have the GPT-5 improvements with Codex? Could you benefit from those in another environment like Cursor, or would you have to use them with Codex basically?
Well, I believe you'll be able to use it in Cursor because it's just another model.
Okay.
I don't know if Cursor has support for it yet, but I bet like within maybe it already exists right now. Check. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. When I had Model Gateway, I thought it was like a gateway drug or something. And like it all started with ChatGPT, and then look where I am now. I'm a fiend.
Yeah, you're a fiend, dude. How many models you got? Jonesing for more. Yeah. this is an interesting space, y'all. Like, as like think about Codex and Lovable and all these products. Like, and I'm not talking about the model Codex. I'm talking about the Codex product. All these are user interfaces for people who maybe are more GUI driven, right? But here's another trend that we saw: Claude Code SDK, Open Code SDK, OpenAI's GPT-5 Codex model. These allow you to do things programmatically. That's a good trend, and I think that'll continue. Like, a lot of shit will become programmatic for sure. And then once things are programmatic, you have APIs, and then APIs can build more products or integrate into your cursor or whatever you want. So I think it's all good shit.
Yep.
All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, Alex, how was your first live stream? How'd it go? Did you like it?
Dude, I mean, if you look at the timer, we've been here for 2.5 hours, but it feels like about half an hour. So I think that's your answer. And I just want to say, I really admire the podcast in general. I think it's awesome. So I feel very privileged to come on. And I really appreciate being here today, getting to ask my, sometimes I ask newbie questions because I'm learning, but I think I represent a lot of people learning. And I really appreciate both your patience and the ways in which you've explained. So my camera just died while I'm being sincere, but it got embarrassed for me. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I had a great time.
You were great. It was great.
Yeah,
Great show. We had a lot of. We don't usually go deep into white papers, so this was one of those types of episodes. But that was awesome, and we hope to have you on more for sure. For everybody else, thanks for watching. This is AI Agents Hour. Just to do a final recap. We talked about shit. We talked about Agent 3 from Replit, both in the web dev mode and the agents mode. It showed up that it's built Mastra, and we and we shot off our own agent builder that we were working on. We talked about Salesforce on talk about it. So